Hello and welcome to another YouTube video on trigonometry and the area of triangles. Now we've got another question that I have made up, which is very similar to the one that I have given my students. The only difference is that the numbers are different. So if there's a student listening here, you will see in your own question the number 200 meters here, and I think it was 30 degrees over here, I've just made it a little bit different on purpose so you don't just copy the answers, but you learn the general technique of what to do. So to find the base to begin with, we've got this triangle here. We want to find the base along the bottom. Now that base along the bottom is right next to the 31 degrees it's given, and when it's next to, we use cos. Okay, so when we're given the long side to begin with, we don't use divide. We're given the long side, and the angle that we're trying to find, not the angle, sorry, the side that we're trying to find is next to the angle that's given. So the answer is going to be 150 cos 31, and if you put that into the calculator you get 128.6 meters to one decimal place. Now you would have noticed that it's 128.5750. Now the second decimal place is 5 or more, it's 7, and when the second decimal place, that's 2 digits after the decimal dot there, that's 7 there, is 5 or more. You have to round the first decimal place up 1, so that 5 there becomes a 6, 128.6 meters. Next thing is to work out the height. We need the base along the bottom and the height of a triangle in order to work out the area, and we also need them for the perimeter all the way around the outside as well. So the height, we're trying to work out the height now. And if we use the bit that we were given originally, ignore this bit over here. We don't need it at the moment. We need to deal with the long side that has been given. So we start with that long side that's given, 150. And because the long side is given, we do not use divide. Now we look at the side that we're trying to find. The side that we're trying to find is opposite the angle, 31 degrees. And so we write down 150 sine, because sine means we're trying to find the opposite of the angle that's given. 150 sine 31 equals, on your calculator, 77.3. And notice again, you would have gotten 77.2557 if you use these values, new values that I've got. It's different for your numbers. And notice that the second decimal place is a 5. First decimal place 2, and then 5 after the decimal dot there. So 2 is first decimal place, second decimal place is 5. When the second decimal place is 5 or more, you have to round the first decimal place up 1 digit to a 3. So 77.3. Okay, now we can work out the perimeter. The perimeter is all the way around the outside. So if you remember, this base was 128.6, and this height was 77.3, and we've also got 150 over here. So if you add all of those three sides together, we get 355.9 meters. Now the area is going to be the base times the height divided by 2 for a triangle. Don't forget to divide by 2, because if it was a rectangle, if this is half of a rectangle, rectangle would go all the way across to here and then down here. Notice that it's a half of a rectangle. So we actually do need to divide by 2. So we've got here the base, which is 128.6, and the height, which we worked out to be 77.3. And you divide by 2, you multiply 128.6 times 77.3, divide by 2, and you get 4,970.4 meters squared. Alright, so over here, got 180 for the angle. I'll just work this angle out here. So you know that 180 degrees are inside a triangle. It's 180 inside the triangle. Now this one's 90. So we can work this one out by subtracting the other ones that we already know from 180. Alright, so we know that one's 90, and then that one's 31. So 180 minus 31 minus 90, and you get the answer as 59 degrees. So it's the angle, the unknown angle there. Alright, let's move on to the next bit here, intermediate. Okay, a little bit more difficult. Now, we've got to try and find all of these sides here. Now, if the long side is given, you can find the other two sides using sine and cos, but the long side is not given. When the long side is not given and we want to find the long side, we must use divide. Okay, the first thing to find is the long side. If you don't have the long side, do that first. Find the long side first, because you can't go straight from here to here, not with the knowledge that I've shown you so far. If you know another technique of doing it, you go ahead and do that. But for most people, we're using sine and cos. We find the long side first if it's not given to us. Now, if you want to find the long side, you've got to use divide. Take the side that's already given to you and then divide. 4 divided by. Now, notice that that 4 is right next to the 63 degrees, and when that's the case, we're certainly not dealing with the opposite at all. This is the one that's further away. Notice that the hypotenuse is next to, this long side here is next to 63 degrees too. But the important thing is, are we dealing with the opposite or not? Are we trying to find the opposite, or have we been given the opposite? And the answer is it's completely irrelevant. The opposite is completely out of the picture. We're not using it to find anything, and we have not been given it. So we do not use sine, we use cos. So this is 4 divided by cos 63.